Hello and welcome to the College of Legal Practice's webinar. My name's Alice Payne. I'd like to say thank you so much for joining us today. This webinar is all about our SQE1 Preparation Course and our LLM in Legal Practice, which includes SQE Preparation. So thank you for joining us. The webinar should only take about an hour, and feel free to pop any questions for us as a team into the chat bar. So let's just make some introductions before we kick off. So yeah, I'm Head of Business Development and Marketing at the college, and I've been with the college a couple of years. Matt, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Alice. Hi, everyone. So yeah, my name's Matt. I'm part of the Student Services team here at the college, so support students with inquiries, application and enrolment, so the full journey right from interest through to enrolment, and then support students throughout the time at the college as well.
Thank you. Ben?
Hi everyone, my name's Ben. I am a student at the College of Legal Practice. I'm on the master's course, part-time, and I'm also a full-time paralegal at Marks & Spencer.
Thank you. Catherine?
Hi everyone, I'm Catherine Newton and I'm a programme leader at the College of Legal Practice. I've been with the college for a year or so, and my background is as a solicitor and also in legal education. I lead the LLM programme that Ben is on and the SQE Preparation Course that Ben is also studying at the moment. And I'm going to be taking you through some slides now so that you can find out what it's all about. So Alice, if you would share the slides. Super, thank you. So in this webinar today, we're going to look at various topics. We're going to take you through the introductory part of the SQE Route to qualification. We're going to talk to you a bit about the SQE1 Assessment and the feedback we had from our students on that. We'll talk about the SQE1 Preparation Course, the Solicitor's Legal Knowledge module, and we'll demonstrate that. You will hear a bit about our learning structure and our LLM in legal practice. You'll hear from Ben as to his experience, and then a little bit on what our students said who were on our first module. And then we'll look at how to apply and deal with your questions. So please pop any questions you have in the chat bar as we go, and we'll pick them up as we go or at the end. Okay, so let's make a start on the route to qualification. And obviously you're here because you're interested in this SQE route, which is a newly introduced route, became live, as you can see, in September. It's running concurrently with the legal practice course at the moment, but that will fall away. And under the new route, there are 4 things that you will need to have to qualify as a solicitor. So you'll start off with having an appropriate degree. That's a UK undergraduate degree in law or another subject. You will then need to undertake the SQE assessments, and there are 2 of them. So that's SQE1 and SQE2, and you must pass 1 in order to progress to 2. You must also undertake work experience, and that needs to be for a total of 2 years. And some of you, like Ben, will be working while you're learning. And finally, you need to be of satisfactory character and suitability. And so that's your model basically for qualifying, and the 4 component parts. And we'll now take a look at a more deeper dive into SQE1 and the facts relating to that. So when you start your preparation for SQE1, you're aiming for an assessment which tests your functioning legal knowledge. So this is all your core subjects, plus additional practice areas determined by the SRA as you being required to know for being a practicing solicitor. So it's 13 practice areas of law. It's an independent national assessment which is run by Kaplan across 30 locations in England and Wales. And at the moment, there are 2 assessment points a year. They fall in January and July. And the Kaplan fees for doing that assessment is just over £1,500. The assessment, which tests your functioning legal knowledge, is an MCQ assessment, which means that you are being tested as to your ability to identify a legal principle and choose the best possible answer from one of 5 plausible options. It's a very rigorous exam because you're looking at being able to answer each question in about 1:30, 1:40. And the SQE1 paper is in 2 parts over 2 days. And on each day, you'll have 5 hours of exams doing these MCQ questions. So it's a very different method of study and of focus, and you really need to be gearing up to how to approach that SQE1 assessment. So I'm just going to show you a quick example of the type of questions that you will encounter in SQE1 and indeed on our module. So you first of all have the stem of the question. So that sets the scenario. What you can see in front of you is a scenario set in the context of business law, and then a specific question which you are required to answer. So you have to read that stem, digest the information, identify the legal principle, and then be ready to answer the specific question. So there will be no clues as to what the principle is, no reference to case law, no reference to statutes. And once you've completed that bit of the looking at the MCQ, you move on to read through the answers that are available to you. So they're described as options. You're looking for the best possible option. So all of these options will be plausible, because the SRA is looking to identify your ability to sift and apply information as if you were at the standard of a day 1 solicitor. So that's what the SQE1 is testing, your knowledge as a day 1 solicitor. So you select the answer that you think is the best possible answer, and you move on to the next question. And all of the SQE assessment is like that. As you work your way through 360 questions over 2 days. So if you're thinking about tackling that exam, you need to be thinking about how you're going to approach those kinds of questions. So we will be talking to you about approaching the reading time that you need for each question, how you identify the subject matter in terms of the key facts and the legal principles. I've already said that there's no specific case law or references to help you along the way. So you're very much looking at it through the lens of being a practicing solicitor, albeit at day 1, and being able to draw on your legal knowledge and apply it, working through a mixed diet of questions at a considerable pace. And we're skilling you up for that. So let's see how we did in terms of our feedback from our students who sat the SQE assessment back in November. So this was our first cohort, and it was for the first SQE assessment in November of last year. We were really encouraged to hear that our MCQs that were encountered in our module and in our examinations were really similar in style to the MCQs that were set in the SQE1 exam. Now, our students reported back that doing those assessments over 2 days, 5 hours each day, was really intensive. So you needed to prepare for the stamina that you needed and the focus that they had to have on each day. And that was a really important message in terms of being ready to sit these assessments. And they also reported that in the assessment centres, and they used a number of assessment centres, there were a few inconsistencies in the handling of students and candidates there, but all of those have been fed back to the SRA and to Kaplan. And at the SRA conference last week, we were reassured that those issues had been picked up and were being dealt with. What our students told us about in terms of our course development is set out on the right-hand side of this screen. So they have a lot of questions, a lot of MCQ questions to practice with. They'd like even more, and we're bringing on board and adding MCQ questions as we go. They also commented on the amount of time between completing the module and the module assessments, and then being able to have a bit of downtime for a little bit more revision for the SQE1 assessments. So they asked for about a week to 2 weeks to revise and practice, and we've built that in to our current scheduling. And they also were very much the guinea pigs for the first SQE1 assessment, and the sharing of that information about how they experienced SQE1 enables us to develop guidance and information about the assessment process to let future cohorts know about that. And that's what we're doing for the cohort that Ben's currently studying on. So that's a little bit about SQE1, and I'll just pause here for questions before taking you to some information about our preparation course. Does anyone have any questions at this point?
Hi, Catherine. There's one question. As the MCQs are based on the best possible answer, does that mean you will only get a mark for that question if you correctly identify the best possible answer?
Yes, is the answer to that. There's no credit given for anything other than selection of the best possible answer. Does that help? I hope that answers that. Okay. As we take you through the program, you'll see that we give you feedback as you go, so that you can learn from any errors that you're making as you're preparing for the
yeah, thank
SQE
you.
exam.
That's great, Catherine. Keep that into the chat bar, and we will revisit it shortly.
Lovely. So that's a good point at which to move into our SQE preparation course itself. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we approach that before and the support we give you before moving on to look at demonstrating our learning portal. So our course, our SQE preparation course, is called the Solicitor's Legal Knowledge module, and we offer that on a short basis of 13 weeks, which is about 25 hours of study per week, or a more elongated basis of 20 weeks, which is about 12 to 15 hours of study. So thinking about what suits you in terms of your other commitments is important when you're deciding on the length of the module that you wish to take. All our program is dealt with through an online virtual learning portal, and we do quite a bit to encourage a community sense for our students as they are studying on the module. We obviously cover all the 13 practice areas, and we have a huge number of resources for you in preparing for the SQE1. We know that you will want to be making sure that you are acquiring legal knowledge, so we give that to you in your manuals. We're very much focused on what you need for the exam, and we give you not only a soft copy manual but also a hard copy manual which you can make your own as you're studying and annotate, highlight and the like as you go. I'll show you in a moment how the SQE1 style multiple choice questions look, and you can see that we've got a huge number of those to practice as you go. We support you as you progress through your studies with whole group sessions which are dedicated to practice areas where which we call surgeries. So that's a bit like sort of a lecture type environment where you can pose questions and clarify any understanding that you have in relation to your legal content. And we also meet in town hall sessions where we orientate you through the course, because there's an awful lot for you to be looking at, covering those 13 practice areas. And in order to give you that generic guidance about approaching the assessments and how to study for MCQ exams. So lots of support there on a whole group level. And coupled with that, we have individual support for you. We allocate a supervisor and a personal tutor to you, and they will monitor and support your progress throughout the module by meeting with you on a regular basis as you progress. Now, the last point or penultimate point here is that this module can form part of an LLM in legal practice, which I'll talk about in a little bit of time. But you can also do it as a standalone module. And if you do it as a standalone module, then the cost to you for studying with the College of Legal Practice is £1,800. We'll move now to have a look at the methodology as we go through this. So we give you a very structured approach to studying. We know that you need to develop your knowledge, so we give you the guided reading, your manuals, and we also give you a short video to support that reading, because it gives you a different way of acquiring that legal knowledge. You then embed your knowledge by doing our online activities, and they're a selection of drag and drop and flashcards, which I'll show you in a moment. You're supported as you're embedding your activities, as I've already said, by feedback from your supervisors, and then you get the opportunity to apply and practice your knowledge through MCQs, which simulate your assessments. That's all about mastery learning. So it's the repetition of those stages, which is shown to embed information so that you can recall it in an examination scenario. So it's this idea of, as I say, mastery learning, the acquisition of knowledge, and the recall, so that you are not losing that knowledge by the time you get to the exam. So it's the art of remembering and getting over the curve of forgetting, as it's called. As I say, support and supervision for you is quite widespread as you go through the course. I've already mentioned the group sessions in the surgeries and the town halls, the individual supervision and personal tutor sessions. We also really like to encourage student discussion. So we've got discussion forums, and we've also got the student services team who can help you with any queries as you go through the course. So that's about building community. And we've got a quote there from a previous student in the context of dispute resolution, saying how helpful his supervisor was in providing insights and advice in the context of one of the practice areas, namely dispute resolution. Okay. Let's move on, and we're coming to the point where I'm going to demonstrate our learning portal. So our learning portal is through a system called Canvas, and it's designed for online use. And I'm now going to show you our learning portal. So just bear with me, and Alice has handed over the share to me, and I'm going to show you that now. I hope. Sorry, just a little bit clunky there. There we go. I hope you can all now see the live page for our current Solicitors Legal Knowledge module. So this learning portal is called Canvas, and down the left-hand side is the main navigation bar, where I have identified the tab I want, which is the courses, which has taken me to the home page of the Solicitors Legal Knowledge module. Also down this blue strip is a calendar, which helps you orientate your studies, and an inbox where tutors communicate with students, and students can communicate with each other. So let's have a look at the content of the course. there's a menu down the left-hand side which enables you to navigate the actual course itself. So on the home page, we orientate you as to what's in the module, and this is a bit like having a handbook, a student handbook for the contents of a course. So you can see that we give you information about what you are going to achieve on the course, and that the SLK module, the Solicitor's Legal Knowledge module, is aimed at preparing for SQE1. We tell you how to get started. We give you essential information which you can keep referring back to about what you're going to study, how you're studying, your scheduling for doing that, and your assessments. We also give you links to how to get help. At the foot of the page, the home page, are all of the modules that are contained in the Solicitor's Legal Knowledge module, and that's the 13 practice areas that you're studying in readiness for the SQE exam. So I'm going to now click on one of the modules, so I would access from this module into a module that I'm just going to show you. So each part is split into subunits. So here I'm looking at contract. I'm looking at contract 1.1. So it's the first subunit of contract. And this is our study pattern, which embeds into that methodology that I showed you a few moments ago. So you start off learning with an introduction, telling you what your objectives are. You then are directed to your resources, so your acquisition of knowledge. You can see here that you get a video, you get a transcript of the video, and a link into your Solicitor's Legal Knowledge manual for the contract unit. And that maps exactly onto exactly the same as the hard copy manual that you have. Just to give you a little bit of a flavour of what this video starts to look like, I won't spend any time here, but just to show you that it goes through.
Offer and acceptance. A contract can either be a simple contract or a contract by deed. Simple contracts are the most common. They can be bilateral, that is, an exchange of promises, or unilateral, that is, a promise to pay in exchange for performance of a specified act.
So you can see that that's a visual representation with the voiceover, which gives you another way of accessing the legal knowledge that you need in the area of contract, in this preliminary area of formation of a contract. Once you've done the acquisition of the knowledge, you begin to embed your knowledge. And here's where we look at your activities. So this is really drawing on what you have acquired and starting to work out for yourself what you're retaining and how well you can apply it. So activity 1 here is drag and drop. So I'm not going to claim any accuracy here. I'm just going to show you how it works. And the important point I want to make here is that once you've completed your activity, you can check it and you get information about your whether you're right or wrong. You can also show the solution, and then you can retry, and you can keep repeating these activities as often as you wish. Beyond these types of activities, you've got flashcards. So this is another way of embedding and beginning to apply and practice your knowledge. And you're given a scenario. So it's a bit like having an MCQ STEM with a question. You read through the scenario. You've got an open-ended question asking what legal issues do you think are relevant based on that scenario. So you would mentally check in with yourself as to what those issues are, or make a note for yourself, turn over your flashcard, and you've got the answers. And you can keep going back and forth on the flashcards and access them as many times as you like to continue practicing and applying your knowledge. The final bit of each subunit is the multiple choice test, and this mirrors the SQE1 assessment style of MCQs. So you have a stem of a question, you read that through, you identify the legal principle, you're asked a specific question, so is the prospective buyer correct? And then you would have to apply your knowledge, thinking about it in the context of the prospective buyer. You select what you think is the correct answer, you check it, you get feedback whether you're right or wrong, and again, you can show the solution and you can retry that as many times as you like. And we're aiming for you to use these MCQs to test your knowledge in this way, but also to acquire the skills of answering these questions in that limited time frame of about 1 minute and 30 seconds or 1 minute and 40 seconds, as you will need to do in the SQE1 exam. So we're giving you generally 10 MCQs at the end of each subunit, and by the end of the module, you'll be working at that pace of doing 10 MCQs in about 15 minutes in readiness for your time needed in the exam. So that's a look at your module, learning in the learning environment. I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to come back to our slides. Thank you, Alice. So we're back into our learning structure. So whether you choose the shorter course of full-time over 13 weeks or the part-time over 20 weeks, the content of the learning structure is exactly the same. It's just that you're either condensing your study time or you're spreading it out more. So in the full-time module, you'll be doing about 10 subunits per week. You need about 2.5 hours per subunit, and you'll be doing that in a guided way in your own time with some touch-base points as you go. So you'll have surgeries on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, touching base on practice areas. And those are for an hour each week. You'll also have that support of meeting your personal tutor and your one-to-one supervisor every Tuesday. That's about 15 to 20 minutes. And then Thursdays for a town hall meeting for orientation for about 30 minutes on a Thursday. So you need to just think about how much time you have to meet those weekly commitments. If you are looking at a part-time basis, then you have a reduced number of subunits. So you start off with 7 a week and then 6 a week in the second part of the course. Touch base points for your surgeries on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, again for an hour. Touch base points on your Mondays in your town halls and personal tutor meetings. And then as you progress through the course, we have lots of opportunities for you to have further practice at MCQs by way of formative assessments. And what we do is we build up the number of MCQs in each formative assessment and therefore the duration of each formative assessment as you progress through the course, so that by the time you reach the end of the course, you're doing 90 questions in a 2.5 hour period, which is exactly what you will be doing in the SQE1 exam. So that's our learning structure for both full-time and part-time. And as I say, think about the time you've got for committing to that. And let's move on now to our next slide to just check in with how it all fits with SQE1. So we're concerned that you are not only ready for study on the course, but also ready for your SQE1 exams. So obviously we time our start dates with the endpoint of the SQE1 exam. The next exam is July 2022, where the booking window is opening on the 17th of March and closing on the 16th of June. So our next SQE1 iteration starts in April, and it's on a full-time basis. And our students who are preparing for that July exam will be able to check in on their readiness to sit it by way of their performance in the subunit MCQs, but also the performance in the 3 sets of formative assessments which are under timed conditions. So it fits with SQE1 in that way, and we really keep an eye on your progress to make sure that you're feeling SQE1 ready as you progress through the course. Okay, let's move on. And at this point, I'm going to hand over to Ben, who can talk to you from a student perspective about how he's found SQE1 so far. Over to you,
Catherine. Hi, everyone. So as mentioned at the beginning, my name's Ben. I'm a student here at the College of Legal Practice, and I'm on the part-time LLM Legal Practice course, which encompasses the preparation courses for both SQE1 and SQE2. So I'm going to discuss my experience of the course so far, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat and I can come to them at the end. So I decided to do the part-time program alongside my full-time role as a paralegal at Marks and Spencer. I wanted to do the master's version of the SQE course to further my career as a solicitor, but also broaden my knowledge on different areas of law that are on offer at the College of Legal Practice. So I started earlier this month, so I'm still very much in the early days of the course, but so far I have been very impressed with how the course has been delivered, the support and the materials on offer, which I will run through now. So I'll try not to go through what Catherine's gone through in terms of the course structure, but how I have found it as a student. So I really like how the content is delivered. It's structured in a way which allows you to easily understand the material, engage with it and retain it. There's a simple pattern, as Catherine's gone through, for each module and each subunit of the course, which is really simple and easy to understand. So the town halls are really useful because they help you plan your week ahead. So they go over any important announcements and what to look forward to over the coming days. It's really helpful to kind of remind yourself of SQE updates, date reminders, such as for me booking the course in March. And it's good to also hear feedback from Catherine or some other speakers where they've kind of spoken to students and really absorbed the feedback that we're saying to them and listening to them, which is really great. So you start off, as Catherine said, about watching an introductory video or podcast about the content you need to cover for the exam. And these videos are really helpful because they give you an introduction of the basic principles you need to know for the exam. And it helps you build on the next stage, which would be the reading, which is in a lot more detail, but equally it's focused on the content you need to know for the exam. It's really laser focused on that. It's understandable and it gives you a lot of SQE assessment tips throughout the reading, which are really helpful. And then you then start to consolidate and retain that understanding through the interactive activities that Catherine's gone through, then moving on to the MCQs, which are structured in the exact same way as the exam. So I really do feel like this way of learning is allowing you to understand the content quickly and simply in a simple way, but it allows you to put it into practice and prepares you for the best possible way for the exam. In terms of support, when I was kind of looking at all the different providers on the market to sit my SQE as a master's, the College of Legal Practice, the reason why I chose them was simply because of the support offered there. I think it really does set them out of the crowd. The student services team answered many of my questions very, very quickly and were super helpful in helping me navigate through the SQE process, and then also what to expect on the course. And they were so prompt and very helpful. Likewise, when you start the course and when you continue the course, there's also a great level of support as well available. So you get assigned a personal tutor, which you have regular catch-ups with and discuss what you need to be successful in the SQE, learning styles, that sort of thing. But also pastoral support as well, which I think is really important, especially when you have a lot on, perhaps working full-time, and then in my case, studying part-time. It is really nice to have that contact and that personal contact at the college. So you have these town halls regularly throughout the course to help you orientate yourself. But in addition, as Catherine has mentioned, you have the discussion boards, which really allow you to interact with other students and also have direct contact with the expert who's leading that module in that area of law, which is fantastic. So there is several layers of support there, which has really made me feel comfortable from the get-go, and that's going to continue throughout the course, which is fantastic. And then some final comments about my experience. So one of the things that was really important to me working full-time is the flexibility of the course, because you know, it is a lot and it's intense, but the College of Legal Practice allows you to fit your studies around your schedule. So most of the work, of which I've decided to structure my work on my weekends and evenings, you can do that alongside work quite easily. But equally, there is a structured calendar which allows you to keep on track with your working in getting through the content in a timely manner. And generally, the aim of my course is to get the SQE under my belt and prepare and work towards a master's qualification. But aside from that, I'm actually just really enjoying the course and the content. It's pitched at exactly the right level. I'm going over content I've also done in my degree, and I'm repeating, but equally I'm learning new areas of law as part of the course, such as business law in practice, which I actually really enjoy. And then finally, I like to alternate the way I study. So working on a laptop all day, every day it's not great. But equally, you can alternate that with the hard copy manuals. So you can really mix it up as to how you want to study, which I think is fantastic. So that's all I wanted to cover. But if you have any questions, please do put them in the chat and I'd be happy to answer now or at the end. But thank you. That's my little speech done. Thank you.
That's really great. Thank you, Ben. It's really good to hear from your side rather than what I think or we think students experience. It's really great to hear that. So thank you ever so much for that. I can't see the chat bar, but Alice.
Yeah, there are a couple of questions, perhaps for a bit of both of you, but Ben, why don't you start? So, I mean, Rebecca wants to know a little bit more about how do you find working while studying? Are you able to manage your time well to sufficiently prepare for the assessments?
Sure. Yes, you can manage your time well. I would go into this knowing that it's intense and you do have to work very hard. There is a lot of content to cover. However, I am working full time and I have managed so far studying part time and working full time. And the one thing I really like about the course is, you know, life can be unpredictable. You could have some really late evenings at work when you plan to study, but the course allows you to have that flexibility. So you have a set structure in your calendar, and usually you do 2 or 1 subunit a day. However, as long as that content is covered off by the end of the week, you are still keeping on top of the work required in order to best prepare yourself for the SQE and potentially a master's qualification. So it does allow that flexibility, but equally it gives you a good structure to not fall behind and to keep on top of your work. So the answer is yes, it's intense, but you can do it, and definitely alongside full-time employment and part-time study, it is manageable, definitely.
Great, thanks, Ben. Another one, just a little bit more around the timetabled sessions that you need to attend, or can you do them whenever?
Sure. So it's a mixture. So there is surgeries and town halls that are at our particular times. But I've not been in this position because I have managed to attend all of them so far, but they are recorded, so you can watch them. If you can't attend and something comes up, that's absolutely fine. The town halls tend to be over a lunch hour, so that works really well for me and my work schedule. And the surgeries are in the evenings, so that works for, I guess, most schedules. You can mix it up, but equally there is things that can be moved. So for example, I meet with Catherine. Catherine's my lovely personal tutor, and there is, if you can't make something, the college is very flexible in terms of it's either available on a recording, or if it's a meeting with a personal tutor or a supervisor, you can move them. There is that little bit of flexibility.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Ben. So please keep adding to the chat bar and we'll come back to that at the end. There is one question, Catherine, from someone else about how many participants passed the SQE1.
Yeah, well, we were really pleased with our pass rate for the SQE1. We had a small cohort. As you can imagine, it was generally a small cohort for nationally across all providers and those who entered themselves. And our students, we were really pleased with their performance on the SQE1. We learned a huge amount about it. And as I say, we are passing that information through to our current students, and that helps them in their run up to preparing for SQE1.
Thank you. So I'll share the slides again. Thank you so much, Ben. And I'll leave it back with you, Catherine.
That's great, thank you. So just to pick up on the theme of listening to our students, you've heard from Ben's currently studying, and this is a bit more from our first set of students. So they were happy with the preparation, as you can see, found the materials useful. These comments echoing the points that Ben is making about his current experience. And what we found is that the students on our first cohort, like Ben, have made the materials work in a way that suits them to be flexible for their own availability and capacity to study, and enabling them to keep up to date on a week-by-week basis. So I think those comments there about how to use the materials, the accessibility of the materials and the amount of support is something that is echoing what you've heard from Ben today. If we move on, we've given you some statistics about our first SLK. And in addition to hearing from Ben, this gives you a sense of what our students think about us. So 80% being satisfied or very satisfied, 70% feeling that the learning portal was easy or very easy to use. And you've heard from Ben that he finds it easy to use. It is really intuitive to use. It's very, very straightforward. Great ratings for our supervisors, for the students. And I think the statistic which speaks volumes is the recommendation rate. 80% would recommend the college to others. And we have a quote on the foot of this slide from one of our SQE1 students. In relation to the resources, the multiple choice resources, that the quantity was substantial, the support was great, and that this particular student wouldn't have felt able to do the SQE1 assessment without taking our preparatory course. So, yeah, the testimonial to the SQE1 preparatory course from our students, both past and present. So if we move on from the student experience, just to talk a little bit about how the SLK module, that preparatory module, sits within our LLM. So you've heard from Ben that he is undertaking the SLK as part of a master's course. So the master's course is looking to enable you to really widen your knowledge for legal practice. So you can undertake both the SQE preparatory modules and then transactional modules to equip you for different areas of practice. And in addition, you would be undertaking an extended piece of work in a capstone project so that you can have a deeper delve into one particular area. And that means that you can think about the direction of travel for your own career path and select modules that suit the types of practice areas that you're interested in actually working in. If you want to study on an LLM and you want to combine that with SQE study and you want to get funding, you will have to do the LLM module over 12 months or over 24 months, and you will start off your studies with the SQE1 module. And you will complete in that 12-month period on a full-time basis, or a 24-month period on a part-time basis. And you'd stick with our full-time modules as you go through a full-time LLM, or the part-time modules as you go through a part-time LLM. So it's up to you. You think about what you want to obtain. If it's a master's qualification, do the SLK as part of that master's qualification, or elect to do it on a standalone basis and pay for the standalone course, which, as I say, is a fee of £1,800. Okay, so that's the LLM structure. I'm going to give you a little bit of information now about dates. So if you were wanting to start a full-time LLM with us, the next start date is the 4th of April. That's aiming for your SQE1 assessment in July. So you would finish your SLK module right at the end of June, beginning of July, in readiness for that SQE1 assessment, building in, as you can see, time for the SQE1 assessment revision that you would need. If you wanted to start on a part-time basis, dropping down to the bottom of this slide, the next LLM part-time start date is August. That's aiming for the January SQE1 assessment. So you would start off with your SLK module, ending in January and in readiness for the SQE1 assessment in January. So part-time and full-time application dates remain open for 4th of April and for the 8th of August. And obviously our student services would be happy to help you if you're thinking beyond that as well. Okay, so that's positioning the LLM and the SQE. We've spoken just a little bit about funding options. So just to confirm there, you can obtain a loan for the LLM and do your SQE within that. It's sufficient in quantity to give you enough money to fund both your master's and your SRA exam fees. And with the college, we can set up instalment plans for you. And Matt will talk a little bit more about our admissions, and I'll hand over to Matt now.
Perfect. Thanks, Catherine.
Thanks,
so yeah, as a reminder, which I mentioned at the start, as being part of the student services team here at the college, we oversee the admissions process right from applications through to enrolment. So I just want to kind of cover a little bit around the admissions criteria and kind of what happens when you're going to kind of make a decision to try and make your application to the college. So for the criteria for the SLK and the LLM is around the qualification being a UK undergraduate degree or equivalent experience. So if you've got a undergraduate degree, that doesn't necessarily have to be in law or legal studies. That's why kind of the SQE, part of the reason why the SQE has come into play, being around a more kind of accessible route to qualification. So if you've got a qualification outside of the UK, we're able to check that against a UK qualification. So if you've got an international qualification or you're not sure kind of to what level it's at, we're able to check that against the UK equivalent. Likewise, if you don't have a qualification but you've got relevant work experience, certainly within the legal sector or legal services, we're able to kind of look at those on a case-by-case basis, but we often say around 2 years kind of minimum if we're going down the experience route rather than a qualification route, to kind of tick that criteria on entry. If English isn't your first language, a relevant English language qualification equivalent to IELTS level 6.5 and then equivalent to level 6 across various other components. So with this obviously being around the law in England and Wales, that's something which falls under the criterion, and our criteria kind of aligns with the criteria set out by the SRA as well. And as we've touched on there, the third bullet point down on the left, if you don't have a law degree or that background, as I said earlier, you can still be eligible in terms of the relevant criteria box. However, we do always recommend that students take a foundation level route just to get a base of understanding, certainly on the legal English legal system, or things like that. And we ourselves run a graduate foundation in law program for non-law graduates. So that's something which is designed to get students that kind of knowledge and grounding to then complete the graduate foundation in law and then take on and progress their career and look to step up to study the SQE or the Masters, for example. Looking at the process now on the right hand side of this slide, so applications are open. They're kind of always open. I know Catherine shared some dates earlier in one of the previous slides, but ultimately you could look to apply for the next up and coming courses around April time, or if you know that the time that you're looking to start is later on in the year or early 2023, you can still submit your applications for those. You can find applications for all of our courses on our website. At the top of the pages, there's an applications tab, or through the kind of the students pages and the programs pages, you can find how to apply. And there's a lot more information on there as well, certainly around the admissions criteria and things like that, and a bit of guidance around it. But yeah, all applications can be found on our website. And one thing we always kind of emphasize is, and it's touched on there, is around including as much detail as you can in those applications. So if you are applying with educational qualifications, if you've got those kind of certificates or transcripts, there's the ability to kind of attach and upload documents. They're always extremely useful for us in terms of the admissions process, just so we can obviously verify and kind of tick those off. You can apply without them, but it might just be a case of a member of the team will kind of come and ask for confirmation, or might give you a prompt that you still need to submit any supporting evidence or attachments and things. So feel free to include as much as possible. Similar with employment, be it paid employment, or if you've had a voluntary role, certainly within the legal sector, that would be a great addition to a qualification. And for anyone applying for the LLM, also needs to attach and include a supporting document as well, so a supporting statement to go alongside your application. And then there's also a chance to include how you intend to pay for the course. So if you know you're going to be applying for the master's funding, or if it's self-funded, or some students might potentially be employee funded, just so we can make sure that everything is right moving forward, and we can kind of align those up. We aim to turn applications around fairly quickly, so quite often within 2 days, students know their outcome, and provided students meet the criteria, they'll be offered a place, and then we can kind of pick up the full enrolment process from there. Or we might have a discussion with a student, certainly if we want to kind of suggest the foundation route, or sometimes Catherine or another member of the academic team might also be on hand to speak to a student regarding their background and how they might fit in terms of studying. It might be a case of we'd recommend the part-time route over full-time if we're around someone's commitments or something like that. But ultimately, obviously, the student can have the final say on which route they might prefer to take. And then finally, if you're unsure about any questions on applications, admissions, or just the process from enrolment through to starting your course, you can get in touch with us at any time. I think our contact details are going to come up towards the end of this session, but you're always welcome to drop an email to the team, or pick up the phone, or even arrange a call back from one of us, and we can do that at a time to suit and discuss anything in additional detail which you might have. But yeah, hopefully these 2 points kind of oversee and outline a little bit more around the admissions information. And yeah, if you've got any questions today, you can obviously put them in this chat or contact us separately via our email or phone number.
Thanks, Matt. That's great. Thank you so much. So we do have a couple of questions for various people on the panel. So I'll stop sharing. Catherine, one for you. What do you class as full-time hours?
Around about 25 hours per week, there or thereabouts. So yeah, you need to think about how much time you've got available to commit to studying. As you've heard from Ben, it is quite intensive. So that's a realistic time estimate as opposed to just guesswork. Similarly, as the part-time hours, about 12 to 15 hours. And I think, Ben, you're nodding, you're vouching for that as being realistic.
Yes, Catherine, I agree. I think as well, it is flexible, so you can kind of front load your work to the beginning of the week or push it back to the end of the week. But as long as you get those hours done within the week, there is that flexibility there. So I'd say 15 hours a week definitely for part-time.
Thank you. One for yourself, I think, Matt, probably. A lady's due to finish her LLB later this year. Expect her classification to be mid to late July. Would this prevent her from enrolling and starting on the LLM on a part-time basis in August, because that's our first part-time course in August? Or would she need to wait to start in February? She's also looking to obtain funding through the master's loan.
Yeah, I've just seen that question there from Emma. So yeah, more than happy for them to apply looking for the July course. What we'll do is we often ask the students, especially if they've got any documents from either first and second year from the university, to kind of show their expected grades coming up, and it'd just be a case of we can offer them a place, a conditional offer, and then as and when, because we appreciate this is probably going to affect quite a lot of current undergraduates, and moving forward there's going to be a crossover where students don't always want to wait till results day, and we'll just offer them as a conditional place, and as and when their classifications and qualifications are released, we just ask for the student to then provide us with, again, a copy of the certificate or transcript. We can update our records to say, on this instance, it might be Emma, and just tick it off as if they've definitely met that criterion, and take it from there, really. So that wouldn't affect the date of application, or certainly wouldn't delay an application for February. Yeah, we're more than happy to kind of pick up applications, even if you're still waiting on your undergraduate outcome.
Thank you. And a lady's asked about the masters and how much that would cost. So I've just posted that on there. So that's £6,900. And yes, we did introduce the SQE courses prior to the LLM, and that is because actually we are quite new in terms of gaining what's called degree awarding powers and have the ability to offer that master's course. If you have actually applied for those courses, but you're interested in switching to the LLM, Matt and his team will be able to help you, because appreciate there was a timing difference there. Essentially, they are the same modules, but obviously the LLM has those additional electives, and I've popped in the chat the details of all those electives that you can have a look at on the website. Any more questions? Is there just one there? Thank you. Okay, well, what I'd like to do is to close the webinar, but we will move over to the session. And in the session, just to let you know, you're really welcome to join us. It's just going to be us, and you can just pop your audio video on, or have more of a private chat with one of us if you'd like to ask some more questions that you don't want to ask in the whole webinar. So you can see sessions on the left-hand side. We're going to be in there shortly, but I would like to ask also for you to stay in touch with us. Thank you so much for joining us. Please do subscribe on our website and follow us on social media. We also have a virtual open evening, if you'd like to meet more of the team. It's going to be on the 10th of March, and I'll just pop that in the chat now for you. You can meet a bit more of the team. There's a bit more time if you'd like to explore any of the other things, see the learning portal again, speak to a couple more students. So you're very welcome, and we'll see you there. But thank you. And thank you so much to Catherine, Matt, and particularly Ben for giving up your time over lunch. No lunch break, I think, for you, for joining us today. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank you, everyone.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks.